October 31st, 1969, Halloween night, Oscoda, Michigan. Two teenage girls, Patricia Spencer, 16, and Pamela Hobley, 15, ordinary classmates, ordinary walk home. But that night, something went terribly wrong. The girls were last seen walking together, heading down River Road as dusk fell. Neighbors remember their laughter, the crunch of leaves underfoot, costumes flashing in the distance as other kids prepared for the holiday. And then, nothing. They vanished. Their families reported them missing within hours, but the community whispered maybe they had run away, maybe they wanted freedom. Police even suggested they had left town voluntarily, but those who knew Patricia and Pamela swore that wasn't true. They had plans, they had lives, and they never came back. Search parties combed the woods, dogs sniffed the ground, flashlights cut through the night. The riverbanks, the fields, the streets where they had walked. Nothing, not a trace, no shoes, no torn clothing, no blood. Just silence. In the weeks that followed, rumors spread. Some said the girls were seen getting into a strange car. Others swore they spotted them in a run-down part of town. But every lead collapsed. Every whisper turned into fog. Halloween came and went. But for two families, the holiday had become a yearly reminder of loss. Decades passed. Photographs of Patricia and Pamela grew older, their faces frozen in time. Detectives changed. Files gathered dust. Halloween nights turned colder, and their case turned into legend. Some called it the Halloween disappearance. Others called it a curse. Then came a chilling detail. Investigators later admitted they believed the girls had been victims of foul play, possibly murdered on that Halloween night. But without bodies, without evidence, there could be no justice. Imagine two teenage girls walking under streetlights, pumpkins glowing in windows, laughter echoing from porches, and then swallowed by the dark. More than 50 years later, their families still wait. Their faces still appear on missing person posters. The question still haunts Oscoda. What happened to Patricia Spencer and Pamela Hobley on Halloween night, 1969? Narrator, soft, haunting. The next time you walk home on Halloween, remember, some stories never end, some doors never close, and sometimes the scariest monsters don't wear masks. Halloween. Suburban streets, plastic masks, pillowcases for loot, porch lights flickering like tiny moons. I grew up hearing a rule. Only take candy from houses with lights on. Only eat what your parents check. We thought it was overprotective, a story to make us slow down. Then Halloween of 1974 burned that rule into the country. It was raining that night, not a storm, just a thin, annoying drizzle that made capes cling to knees and wig hair curl. Families still went out. That's what you do. Costumes don't wait for weather. A father led a small group of kids door to door. He knew the route. He knew the shortcuts. He even joked about the houses that never answered. "Knock anyway," he said. "You never know." At one of those houses, dark, quiet, no one came at first. He told the kids to move on. They did. He stayed behind. Minutes later, he caught up, smiling, rain speckled on his glasses. He held long paper straws, the kind that looked like giant pixie sticks. "Big score," he said. He handed one to his son. He gave the others to a few kids in the group, a prize for a wet night. The children cheered. Parents didn't think twice. It was candy. It was Halloween. Hours later, at home, a boy asked for a treat before bed. Not the chocolate, not the gum. He wanted the big straw, the one that looked special. His father helped tear it open. The powder inside was clumpy from the damp air. It tasted bitter, too bitter to be sugar. The father offered a sip of something sweet to chase it down. Minutes later, the boy was on the floor, vomiting, crying that his stomach was burning. Then he began to convulse. Sirens, neighbors with towels, a mother screaming the way only a mother can. At the hospital, doctors worked fast, but the poison moved faster. By midnight, a child was gone. Police did what police do. They pulled the candy from every child in the neighborhood. They spread it across tables under bright lights. They found the paper straws. They tested the sugar. It wasn't sugar. The news spread in a way only bad news can. Halloween, the safest scary night, had been ripped open. Reporters used a phrase that still echoes: poisoned Halloween candy. Parents emptied bowls into trash bags. Porch lights went dark. Over the next days, investigators traced every step of the night. The route, the rain, the dark house that didn't answer. The father who lagged behind. Something didn't fit. The house he blamed had proof. The occupant wasn't home. 100 miles away, he'd been at work. Time cards, witnesses. No one had handed out anything at that door. So where did the candy come from? They went back to the father, back to the smile in the rain, back to the paper straws he somehow had when the group turned the corner. They looked into his life. They found bills, debts stacked like damp newspapers. A life leaning in the wrong direction. They found insurance policies, new, large, and aimed at the future of one child who no longer had a future. What began as a rumor became a case. What began as a grief became a charge. In court, prosecutors argued a story too terrible to believe, that the monster on Halloween wasn't a mask at a stranger's door. He was a familiar silhouette under a porch light. He was a parent with a plan. A jury listened. The country listened. The verdict arrived with a kind of stunned silence. Guilty, the man would be called by a name the newspapers stamped on him forever. A name I won't repeat here, because the child deserves the last word, not the person who took it. People ask why this one story stuck. Because it turned a safe rule inside out. Because the danger didn't come from a shadow, or a rumor about razors, or the old house at the end of the block. It came from trust, from someone who was supposed to stand between a child and the world, and instead opened the world like a trap. After that Halloween, everything changed. Police stations opened their lobbies for candy checks. Hospitals offered x-rays for the strangest reasons. Neighborhoods started organizing one street, one time, all together, so no one walked alone. But memory is a stubborn thing. Ask anyone who was a kid then. They remember the feel of wet costumes. They remember parents sniffing wrappers, reading labels out loud. They remember learning a new sentence: only eat what I've looked at. I wasn't there, but I grew up in the long shadow of that night. For years, the story lived in living rooms, told carefully around bowls of fun-size candy. Sometimes the names were wrong. Sometimes the details flipped, but the shape of it never changed. A kid went out in the rain and came back with a prize. The prize wasn't a prize. The fear that followed wasn't a rumor. And yet, here's the strangest part. Every year since, millions of children still go out on Halloween. We still carve pumpkins. We still tape paper bats to windows. We still knock on doors and say a magic phrase that shouldn't have any power, but somehow does. Maybe that's courage. Maybe it's denial. Maybe it's our way of saying this night belongs to us, not to a single act of cruelty. Still, there's a second ritual now. It happens in kitchens, on counters, under two bright lights. Parents sort the pile. They pick out the unfamiliar things, the odd brands, the treats that look too clever. And somewhere in the back of the room, someone remembers the rain in 1974. When I tell this story, I try to leave space for the boy. I try to say his name softly. I try to remember that behind every headline there is a life with favorite cartoons, and school projects and a costume picked out days in advance. I try to remember that horror is not what haunts us, it's what changes us. In that sense, this was a Halloween story from the start, a tale about masks and what lives underneath.
But it's also a story about what we do after the mask is torn away.
We make new rules, we keep the good parts of the night. We stand closer together under the rain, the porch lights still flicker, the pillowcases still rustle. Children still run between houses, breath turning to fog, and on some steps, a parent kneels to tie a shoe, to fix a cape, to say the old rule one more time. Only eat what I've checked, and stay where I can see you. The child nods, the door opens, the bowl is offered, the magic words are said. Trick or treat, and somewhere far away from porches and costumes and candy, a safer world gets made again. One careful wrapper at a time. Halloween, State College, Pennsylvania. A night of costumes, noise, and harmless scares. For Cindy Song, 21, it was supposed to be just that. A party, a ride home, a few hours of sleep, and class in the morning. She never made it to class. She never made it anywhere at all. After midnight, Cindy and friends bounce between a club and a small get-together. She's in a playful bunny costume, ears, makeup, false eyelashes. It's late. Everyone's tired. A friend offers a lift. About 4 a.m., he drops her at her apartment complex on West Clinton Avenue. She walks toward her door. The car pulls away. That is the last confirmed sighting. Days later, when friends can't reach her, police check the apartment. No sign of a struggle. Her backpack and phone are inside. The false eyelashes from the costume sit on the bathroom sink. A tiny, chilling proof she made it home. Missing her purse with ID and cards and possibly the costume itself. No credit card activity, no calls, just absence. Outside, autumn goes on. On campus, flyers multiply. Have you seen Cindy? Friends repeat the timeline, police do the same. The hours between 4 a.m. and dawn become a locked room with no door. There are tips. There are always tips. Someone says they saw a woman who looked like Cindy in Philadelphia's Chinatown, crying for help in a car, nearly 200 miles away. A sketch is made. It leads nowhere solid. The uncertainty hurts almost as much as the silence. Theories breed. Did she step out again? Maybe to a late-night market? Still in costume, just a few blocks from home? Did someone offer help? With a door, with a bag, with nothing real behind the smile? Or did something go wrong before she ever left the complex? No camera, no witness can answer. Investigators chase darker leads. Years later, the name Hugo Selensky, a violent offender tied to multiple murders, surfaces through an informant's story about a woman abducted from the State College area around that time. It is never proven to be Cindy. It is never disproven enough to forget. The case remains officially unsolved. Think about what we do know. We know she got home. We know she took off her lashes. We know her purse is missing. We know there's a gap. From the moment a door closed to a morning that never arrived. Sometimes real horror is not a scream. It's a quiet apartment that should be messy by noon and stays exactly the same. Friends describe Cindy as bright, social, creative. The kind of person who makes plans, who posts, calls, shows up. On November 4th, after she misses shifts and doesn't answer, they report her missing. By then, Halloween decorations are already coming down across town. The case is only starting. Police release the timeline again. 4 a.m. drop-off. No signs of forced entry, no digital trail, no confirmed sighting after the sidewalk outside her building. We like stories that end cleanly. We want monsters to be caught, motives explained, maps drawn with X marks. Cindy's story refuses. It teaches a different lesson. For all our cameras and crowds, a person can still vanish between a porch light and a doorway. When you tell the story every Halloween, people ask the same question. Is it a ghost story or a crime story? It's both, and neither. It's real. A student in a costume walked to her door and did not live the next day we all expected her to live. That is enough to haunt a town if you were there that night. If you saw a woman in bunny ears near West Clinton Avenue after 4 a.m., if you drove through a quiet complex and noticed a figure stepping back from headlights, memories can solve what evidence cannot. Cindy's case is still open. Someone knows something. Uncertainty is a second kind of death. Truth is the only way back.